Lately, I've been working on Sufism. I've been reading Sufism. I don't expect myself to practice it once I went to a khanka as well. But it didn't go well. It touched my spirituality, my soul somehow. The concept of zikr, that touched my soul. It actually worked somehow. But I don't think I can practice it like having a peer, having a murshid, and following. I'm not a practicing person. But when I came across this book of William Chittick, Me and Rumi, I loved it. Although I've been reading Ihya al-Ulum by Imam Ghazali and original classic stuff on Sufism, like Ibn al-Arabi's Fusus al-Hikam. I've written criticism on it as well. But the point is, reading Sufism is one thing and practicing it is another. So let me read a story from this book. This video is all about a story. So let me read it. The story is My Path to God. Someone went to a sermon in Hamdan where they all declare God's similarity. The city preacher came out and sat on his seat. The Quran reciters purposefully began to recite before him verses that connected to declaring similarities, such as, "The All-Merciful sat upon the throne. His words, are you secure that he who is in heaven will not make the earth swallow you? And your Lord and the angels will come row upon row, and they fear their Lord above him." Since the preacher was one of those who declare similarity, he spoke of the meaning of the verses in terms of the declaration of similarity. He also quoted hadith, "You should see your Lord as you see the moon when it is full. God created Adam in his form. I saw you, my Lord, in the red robe." He offered fine expositions in the manner of declaring similarity. He's talking about the preacher, right? So he said, "Alas, for anyone who does not declare God similar in these attributes, who does not know God in this form, his outcome will be hell, even if he performs the worship, for he will have denied the form of God. How can his obedience be acceptable?" So this is a normal ritual, right? That preachers and ulama, they declare hell upon people who deviate from the path. Somehow they have set a standard. They decipher the code of Islam and tell people to follow that code, and otherwise they will go straight upon to the hell. And they decree upon the people. Anyways, questioners were standing up and interpolating verses and hadiths connected to the God's placelessness, such as "He is with you wherever you are, and nothing is as His likeness." He interpreted them all in the way declaring similarity. He got the whole gathering warmed up to the declaration of similarity, and all met them, all fear the declaration of incomparability. They went home and told their children and the wives. This is how it works. This is a philosophy and a theory in journalism where it is called the opinion leader. The leader gets its message from media or books or any other source, any other general source, authentic source, and he is influential between people, and he distributes his message upon the people, and the people distribute his message to others. This is called two-step flow theory. So it works very well with Islam and the preachers. They get their message from Quran and exegesis and hadith and tradition of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. and they distribute and they publicly distribute and their interpretations of Quran and Hadith to the people, and people believe them, and people go and distribute and disseminate that message to their children, their wives, and it goes on, it multiplies like a fission reaction. Anyways, he says that they advise them all, you must know that God is on the throne in a beautiful form, his 2 feet hanging down and placed on the footstool, with the angels all around the throne. The city preacher said, if anyone negates these forms, his faith is negated. Woe upon his death, woe upon his grave, woe upon his outcome. So you imagine? I can look at this explanation when a preacher says that God sits on a throne, leaving his feet down. It's more like so humanly. How can we imagine that God will sit like a human on a throne and angels are sitting beside him like security guards of a humanly king? It's beyond our interpretations. Do we need to accept God in these forms? This is a question of philosophy. Rather, it's not the question of religion, rather of philosophy and the question of Sufism and divinity. Anyways, let's just read the story. And what happens next? Next week, a preacher arrived who was a Sunni and a stranger. The Quran reciters read out verses that declare God's incomparability. His words, nothing is as his likeness. He was not born and does not give birth. The heavens are rolled up in his right hand. He began skinning alive those who declare God similar. Anyone who declares God similar becomes an unbeliever. Anyone who says he has a form will never be released from hell. Anyone who says he has a location, woe upon his religion, woe upon his grave. Anyways, and this is a contradiction, a sweet contradiction, I would say. The first preacher says that God has a form, he is sitting on a throne, surrounded with the angels. And the second preacher, he says now that God has no form, he is uncomparable, there is no similarity. God is formless, shapeless, and anyone who declares a shape and a form of the God and a place of the God, he says, woe upon the person. Now, the masses, the general populace, the people, they are perplexed, they're confused, their confounding self now tries to find God. Anyways, what happens next? He interpreted away all the verses that seemed to declare God's similarity. He kept speaking of threats and talking of hell. If anyone speaks of form, his obedience is not obedience, his faith is not faith. He says God requires a location. Woe upon him who hears these words. Who hears these words? Great. The people became extremely frightened and they returned to their houses weeping and fearful. This is what masses do. Actually, the masses are very naive, I would say. They listen to the preachers, they listen to ulama, and they listen to the people who speak of God, who speak of religion, who are the what would we say, who are the people of religion, who are the people of God. They listen to them carefully, very carefully. And what happens next? One man returned to his house and did not eat dinner. He went to a corner of the house and put his hat on his knees. As was their custom, the children gathered around and he drove them away and shouted at them. All of them gathered around their mother in fear. His wife came and said before him, she said, is the master well? The food has become cold. Won't you eat? You have struck the children and driven them away. They're all weeping. I mean, this is the household, right? This is the normal household that happens when the man of the house is angry and the children are frightened. Then the wife comes to console him, to try to understand what is the problem with the master and how can she better serve him. Anyways, what happens next? He said, "Go away. I have nothing to say. A fire has fallen on me." She says, "By the God in whom you hope, won't you tell me what state has overcome you? You are a patient man. Many difficult events have happened to you, and you were patient and took them lightly. You trusted in God, and God took you past them and made you happy in gratitude for all that in turn of suffering over to God. God too, take it lightly, and mercy will come down." Anyways, a person believes in God and a preacher says that God is on a throne. The person believes that God is on the throne. Anything else is going to be a hellfire. And another preacher comes down and he says that God is shapeless and formless and locationless. And now he thinks, wow, I was all around in the Zamana Jahiliya, right? So people are so frightened out there. People are so terrified of different explanations of religion and different explanations of God. What happens to this man now? The man felt sorry for her and said, "What should I do? They have confused me. They have brought me to the edge. Last week that scholar said, you must hold that God is upon the throne. Anyone who does not hold that God is upon the throne is an unbeliever and will die in an unbeliever." This week another scholar said on the seat, "If anyone says that God is upon the throne or thinks intentionally that he is upon the throne or in the heaven, his works will not be accepted, his faith will not be accepted. God is incomparable with location." So now, which one should I follow? In which belief should I live? In which should I die? I'm confused. It's very obvious that the people are confused. The woman said, "Husband, don't be confused. Don't think about perplexity, whether he is on the throne or has no throne, whether he is in a place or has no place, wherever he may be. Long may he live, may his good fortune last. You must occupy yourself with being a dervish." Well, this is the concluding line. You must occupy yourself with being a dervish and think about being a dervish. So, gentlemen and ladies, God is omnipotent. God is ubiquitous. God is everywhere. Whether you think God is on a throne, watching us all, walking on the ground, or you think that God is near to you. So God is inside you. God is on the throne. Wherever you think God is, your duty is to follow God, to be a dervish and follow God. Anyways, that's enough for today. Thank you for listening. Allah Hafiz.